The level of entitlement from UFC fighters recently has been out of control. Most recently by Kamaru Usman this weekend, and by a couple other fighters I want to talk about in this video. Recently, we've had an uprising of fighters who seem to think that on a one-fight win streak, they all of a sudden are the most deserving for a title shot. And this has been running rampant through the UFC. And like I said in this video, I'm going to take 3 instances very recently in the last month or two where we've had UFC fighters who've either had title shots or are on a losing streak and get one win and they're yapping about another title shot. It's absolutely embarrassing. And the fact that the UFC honors these title shots sometimes really grinds my gears. Now, I will say I am happy for Kamaru Usman. You know, he got a good win this week and it was emotional for him. First win in almost 4 years. Good for him, man. But let's not pretend like just because you got a win and you beat Buckley, you deserve a title shot, bro. You're 1-3 in your last 4. But with that all out the way, let's get right into it. Let's hear what Kamaru Usman had to say after his win against Joaquin Buckley.
You know, let's be honest, I'm the biggest in the division. You know, and this is about entertainment. The UFC is an entertainment company. You want to make the biggest fight. It's going to be the winner of JDM and Islam.
Now, to be fair, he did preface by saying if you want to make the biggest fight in terms of entertainment, it would be him versus the winner of JDM Islam. I will give him that, but let's continue.
You know, if Islam pulls that one out, former pound for pound, current pound for pound, who doesn't pay for that?
Congratulations, man. It was a really impressive performance.
Appreciate it.
Kamaru, so just going on that.
So he's basically selling it as, oh, yeah, former pound for pound, current pound for pound. He's selling it as entertainment. He's actually not arguing that he deserves a title shot off of merit, which I somewhat respect. But you're still 1-3 in your last 4, bro. One more. Let's get to what the other reporter asked. He kind of like doubles down and pretty much tries to get Kamaru to confirm you deserve the title shot more than anybody, right?
You feel like basically tonight you got yourself a title shot. You got yourself the winner of JDM Islam.
I mean, you don't feel like that? Who else?
You're the biggest name, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm asking you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There you go. He says, oh, yeah, for sure. So Kamaru Usman believes being 1-3 in your last 4. I understand the context of the fights. He had a close fight with Chimaev. He got beaten in the rematch with Leon, and he got head kick in the fight. He was dominating. I do understand that. But at the end of the day, you're 1-3 in your last 4. This is your first win since November of 2021. We're in 2025. Yes, it is impressive that he defeated Joaquin Buckley. However, Joaquin Buckley is ranked number 7 in the division. This is his first win in nearly 4 years. And he looked decent against Buckley, but I'm going to be honest, man. If Usman cannot take his next opponent down, it's going to be rough for him. He didn't look great in the striking. I'm going to be honest. He went back to his bread and butter, but when it was on the feet, it was dangerous for him. He was looking pretty sloppy. But with that being said, it's like, come on, bro. Why are we yapping about title shots whenever we're 1-3 in our last 4? What is up with this? What is this uprising of UFC fighters thinking that, oh, well, I won one fight, former pound for pound, current pound for pound. Who doesn't pay to see that? And I get what he's trying to sell, but listen, dude, if Usman goes out there and beats one more guy, then I'd be okay with him getting a title shot because then he would be on a 2-fight win streak against the top of the division. But to come back after 3 years, 3.5 years without a win, get one single win, and then all of a sudden you deserve a title shot because because you're a legend of the sport, fair enough. I understand he started off his UFC career 15-1 or 15-0, but dude, we cannot be handing out title shots on one-fight win streaks. That's not how the sport should work. You should have to earn your title shot. And a guy like Kamaru Usman, if he goes out there and he was to defeat Ian Gary, if he was to defeat who else? A Shavkat Rakhmonov, defeat a Bilal Muhammad, I think that's the perfect fight next. Kamaru Usman versus Bilal Muhammad. There's beef. They have a podcast where Kamaru Usman refuses to release because he got embarrassed on it. That could be a whole fun buildup. That's the next fight to make. In fact, Bilal Muhammad actually called him out on Twitter, and he pretended he was like, who's Bilal Muhammad? And yeah, man, I'd honestly favor Bilal to beat Usman because I don't think Usman would be able to take Bilal down, and I think Bilal's the better striker at this point in their careers. I'm not trying to hate on Usman, but I am sick and tired of these UFC fighters calling for title shots whenever they're on a one-fight win streak. And I think Ali Abdelaziz has something huge to do with this because the next fighter in this video I want to talk about, Justin Gaethje, is also managed by Ali Abdelaziz as well as Kamaru Usman. Not only that, but they both train under Trevor Whitman. And what a coincidence that the two fighters that train under Trevor Whitman and are managed by the same guy are yapping about a title shot. Let's hear what Gaethje has to say on why he thinks he deserves a title shot because he's 3-1 in his last 4. Let's hear what he had to say.
Sense.
They owe me a championship fight. I'm 3-1.
last 4. They came to my house, begged me to fight Max Holloway on UFC 300. And what I consider it an exhibition fight. I don't mean that the loss is not on my record. I mean it had nothing to do with the rankings of my.
All right, so he considers it an exhibition fight. The loss has nothing to do with his record. He's saying that, like, he doesn't mean it doesn't count, but he's basically saying him fighting Max Holloway had nothing to do with his standing in the lightweight division. I disagree, especially that Max Holloway is now permanently at lightweight. It does matter, man. You didn't just lose to Max Holloway. You got absolutely and utterly obliterated for 5 rounds and finished brutally at the end. And then you come back a year later, fair enough, take a year off because you took a lot of damage, face a guy that you already beat on short notice and who's been out for a year and a half, and you barely beat him in the rematch, and you're yapping about a title shot, man. What is Ali Abdelaziz telling these guys in their ear to say, you know what, Gaethje, you deserve the fight? Let's continue on what he had to say.
In the time that I did that, Dustin Poirier, who I just beat, got a good win over Saint Denis, and then fought for the belt.
Yeah.
And then
all right. So he brings up a decent point. He said, okay, well, Dustin Poirier fought for the belt after beating Saint Denis, and I have a win over Poirier. That's great, but we're in a different landscape now. We have Topuria moving up. We have Arman Sarukian, who's the bona fide number 1 contender. We have former champion Charles Oliveira, fair enough, 2-2 in his last 4. Maybe you can argue that Gaethje deserves it over Oliveira, but let's not kid ourselves. Topuria versus Oliveira is a much better matchup than Gaethje versus Topuria. That's just facts, and that's why the UFC went with that. But let's continue.
Since I won, the champion's been saying he wants to fight me. And so they could have easily set that up, but they didn't. Then he vacates, and then Oliveira's 2-2 in his last fight. Already has a loss to Makhachev, and they bring a brand new guy in. And I get, again. So I'm not going to fight any of these motherfuckers for fun unless they pay me so much more money.
So he's basically saying he's not going to fight any of these guys for fun. And Justin Gaethje's claiming he keeps getting screwed out of a title shot, which I think is complete and utter BS. And let me tell you why. First of all, Justin Gaethje has had 2 undisputed title shots, and he's gotten choked out in both. If he never got his title shot, like ever, if Justin Gaethje had never fought for the belt, I'd be like, you know what? He's a legend. He's done the UFC some favors. Let's give him a title shot. But the fact of the matter is, man, history matters, and this guy's gotten 2 title shots, and he's lost in both. To pretend that he deserves a title shot off of a win over Rafael Fiziev, well, after he got destroyed by Max Holloway, and by the way, Max Holloway is coming off a knockout loss to Topuria, it's like, no, dude, you don't deserve a title shot, because guess what? I'm going to do some MMA math here. Topuria smoked Max Holloway, not smoked, but he knocked out Max Holloway, which is the guy who brutalized Justin Gaethje. And Topuria is undefeated, pound for pound number 3. If he's moving up a weight class and willing to vacate his title at featherweight, of course the UFC is going to give him a title shot over you, Justin Gaethje, who's already had 2 undisputed lightweight title shots and an interim title shot, mind you. So Justin Gaethje's had a total of 3 title shots, and he's been in 2 BMF title fights. And I'm sorry, man, I just heavily disagree. Justin Gaethje, his other claim was that Makhachev was calling to fight him. Of course Makhachev was calling to fight you, bro. It's a free title defense. It's free legacy. If Makhachev fought Gaethje, that would literally be a free win to tie the longest win streak in UFC history, because we know Makhachev would go out there, take him down, and submit him in under 2 minutes. And it'd be a free title defense, and everybody would be like, oh yeah, of course he submitted Gaethje. It's like, no, dude. Listen, if Justin Gaethje goes out there and fights Dan Hooker, as they were scheduled to do, book him again against Dan Hooker, or book him against Patty. If he beats Patty or Dan Hooker, listen, then I'd be like, you know what? Justin Gaethje can get a title shot. But you beat Rafael Fiziev, bro, who you already had a win over. 2 years ago. You fight him on short notice when he's coming off an injury, and you nearly lose the fight. I know he won on the cards, but he nearly lost the fight. I'm sorry, bro. And Rafael Fiziev is putting him in an inverted triangle. Imagine what Makhachev would have done. Imagine what Charles Oliveira would have done. So the entitlement from Justin Gaethje, I get it. He's more looking at it from an entertainment aspect and how he's given the UFC a lot of favors. They begged him to fight Max Holloway, but bro, at the end of the day, you're a grown-ass man. Doesn't matter if the UFC comes banging on your door to fight Max Holloway. I know he got paid a couple million to fight Max Holloway at UFC 300. I know that. So he was compensated heavily, and then he lost, right? So when you lose, you don't come back and beat the number 12 guy who you already had a win over on short notice, and then all of a sudden you're claiming a title shot. That's not how it works, bro. You need to put in the work. You need to be on at least, in my opinion, you need to be at least on a 2-fight win streak to get a title shot. At least, unless it's an immediate rematch from a champion that was a dominant champion. So Justin Gaethje, I get where he's coming from, but I heavily disagree. He needs one more win. He needs to fight Patty. He needs to fight Hooker. If he beats one of those guys and Topuria is there, then I would not mind him getting a title shot. But yeah, man, fight. Justin Gaethje, fight. You've been in the UFC since 2017, and you have, 14 fights? what is that? A fight. So he's had 14 fights in 8 years. I mean, that's decent. That's not the most active, though. I get he's had to take some time off. But I want to see Justin Gaethje get one more win before he's clamoring about a title shot. Same thing with Kamaru Usman. Get one more win. At least a win streak. One fight is not a streak. That's one win. We need you to get on a win streak to get a title shot. We're making a mockery of the sport and returning into boxing. Let's get to the last case of this, which is arguably the most infuriating. And I don't know why, but I really can't stand Yair Rodriguez just because he's like so pretentious and like smug. And this dude's so entitled, man. Yair Rodriguez, let me preface this with, this guy thinks he deserves a title shot, right? I'm going to play the clip and then I'm going to kind of go off on why Yair Rodriguez nearly getting a title shot against Volkanovski and still possibly getting one is embarrassing for the UFC. But he was asked about the whole Diego Lopez beef and oh, if you don't get the Volkanovski fight, wouldn't that be a bigger fight for you right now? And this is what he responded with.
So the fans, of course, but if you ask me, if you're in my position right now, the beef can stay aside for now. And the only thing that I'm looking for right now is fighting for that belt. What happened? I think when the moment comes, we will talk more about it, but for now, I just want to focus on that title fight, which is fighting against the current champ, Alexander Volkanovski, on a rematch, and I want to do that in Guadalajara.
Wow, so the entitlement is insane. Not only does he want a title fight with Volkanovski coming off a one win and against a Bellator reject in Pitbull, he wants it in Guadalajara. Now, granted, this was nearly happening. It looked like the UFC was going to do Yair Rodriguez versus Volkanovski 2 rematch in Guadalajara. However, the stadium in Mexico apparently wasn't ready. There was an issue with the stadium, so the UFC pushed back on that, and they canceled Noche in September for UFC 320, and they actually moved it to Texas for a fight night. So thank goodness, and not to mention us fans and us YouTubers and the media were pushing back heavily against Yair Rodriguez getting a title shot, and we need to scream from the rooftops. No way this guy deserves to fight Volkanovski. Volkanovski's already beat you, little bro. You're 1-2 in your last 3. You got submitted by Brian Ortega. You got finished by Volkanovski. You come back and you beat a 37-year-old Pitbull debuting in the UFC. You don't even finish him. And this guy's talking about a title shot? Absolutely not. And the level of entitlement for this absolute prick to suggest that he would fight Volkanovski in Guadalajara. You don't hold the cards, little bro. You're the challenger who already got destroyed by Volkanovski. So if and when you were to get a title shot, you sit down in the corner with Ian Gary and you take what they give you. You don't say, I want it in Guadalajara. You don't get out of here, dude. You beat Pitbull in the last 2 years. Who is this guy? So Yair is definitely the most annoying of these three because he's not a former reigning champion. He's an interim champion, but this guy's just been yapping for years. He wants to get one win constantly and get a title shot. I am so sick and tired of these UFC fighters winning one fight and then being like, yeah, I think I deserve to fight for the title next. No, you don't. Guess what? There's a guy in your division, Movsar Evloev, who's 9-0 in the UFC, who's been cutting his teeth in the UFC. And he deserves a title shot more than anybody right now. And he was even asked about Movsar, and he pretty much brushes to the side. He's like, yeah, respect to Movsar, but I believe I deserve the title right now. He didn't even give a good reason because he knows that Movsar Evloev deserves the title. That's just a fact. So, yeah, man, I wanted to go through these today. And Yair Rodriguez versus Volkanovski 2. I haven't heard too much heat about it. I know whenever originally it was about to get announced, us YouTubers were pissed. Lucas Tracy, Guru, me, a lot, even the Weasel, I believe, made a video. A lot of YouTubers were coming out and saying, hold up, Yair Rodriguez getting a title shot? We only have 1 or 2 more fights with Volkanovski left in his career, and we're going to waste it on Yair Rodriguez, who's on a 1-fight win streak against Pitbull? No, dude. We need to push back on this shit. Whenever the UFC releases these garbage-ass title fights that nobody wants to see, we need to be in the Instagram comment sections. We need to be in the YouTube comment section saying, no, I won't take this. This is not what we want to see. This is not who deserves it. The UFC does not need to turn into boxing. We need to give the rightful guys the right title shots. I am so sick and tired of the UFC putting on these garbage title fights that nobody wants to see. Because guess what? What builds hype behind a title fight? It's guys on a win streak. It's guys that deserve it. It's guys that crawled their way to the top of the division and earned it. Not a guy who's on a 1-fight win streak yapping, oh, if you're in my current position, you're fighting for the title. No, Yair. Yair should be like 2 or 3 wins away from a title. Like, dude, you beat Pitbull. Go and fight Arnold Allen. Go and fight Diego Lopez, which is the biggest fight in the division right now you could make with the biggest beef. I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Am I the only one that is just sick and tired of these entitled-ass UFC fighters? And I understand where some of them are coming from, but no, dude. We need to end the era of title shots on a 1-fight win streak. Sean O'Malley just got destroyed by Merab. He didn't even get a win. He got an immediate rematch, and he wasn't even a dominant champion. What are we doing, man? If you're not a dominant champion that like was reigning over your division, you lost, you don't get an immediate rematch, and you don't get a rematch off a 1-fight win streak. Same thing with Sean Strickland. He beats Paulo Costa after losing to Dricus. He gets a title shot and then gets destroyed like I knew he would. It's like, come on, man. Let's give title shots to guys who actually deserve it, not people who are sitting out on the sidelines for a year at a time, and then the UFC rewards it. And what message does that send to the fighters? Oh, well, yeah, if I just cry about a title shot and sit out a year, then the UFC will reward me. It doesn't matter if I'm on a 1-fight win streak, not even a streak. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. This was frustrating me, so I definitely wanted to drop a video about this after Kamaru Usman was calling for a title shot after 1 win in the last almost 4 years. So yeah, drop a like if you guys enjoyed the video. I'm out, and peace.